Alright everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new event plane, and no, I don't have some super secret early access to the FR9, it's just the exact same experience you get with the F8, so I just slapped a user skin on it. In real life, the FR9 was a reconnaissance version that had cameras at it, and of course in-game we don't have anything to take pictures of. So all this is just a slightly heavier F8. To be precise, it's exactly 45 kilograms heavier and it has a little bit higher fuselage drag. I love the F8 Meteor though, so I figure this is a great time to take a look at it, and just remember everything I say applies to both jets because they are functionally the same plane. Even though this is a copy and paste event reward, which we've seen way too many of recently, at least this is an enjoyable one, because the Meteor F8 is just an all-around enjoyable plane to fly if you ask me. I've always had a soft spot for this. The best thing I can compare it to is basically like a Spitfire for jets. These planes are excellent in the dogfights, though of course the F8 and F9 by extension are not the best turning Meteor. Something like the CGSS or the Meteor F Mark IV will outturn you, but in exchange you do get a better roll rate, which is a massive advantage in a lot of dogfights. The good roll rate is one of the reasons why this thing is so much fun to dogfight, and don't get me wrong, this thing still has a good turn rate. The F-86A5, which is one of the planes you're going to be seeing very often because it is the same battle rating as you, does have worse turn than you at almost every speed, at the actual dogfighting speeds. It does have the advantage above 700 kilometers an hour, but I mean, basically every time you get into a dogfight, you're going to be dropping below that. You also have pretty good thrust to weight and therefore excel, though of course you do lose out to the MiG-15 BIS-ish, which is the same battle rating as you and also outturns you. Against those, you kind of have to use your roll rate and hope that you can get them to mess up. But those are pretty rare, and most of the time you're going to be fighting vehicles in that 7.3 to 7.7 range, which you do pretty handily outperform in most regards. There is one real downside of this jet, flight performance-wise, and it is a little bit slow. In a straight line, it hits around 960 kilometers an hour. At maximum, right before it rips, it hits like a little bit over 1,000 kilometers an hour before it rips. This means that, even at its own BR, and especially if you get up tiered, say, for example, to 9.0, you're going to run into jets that can go 1,100 kilometers an hour plus, and you can't catch up to them even in a dive. It's a similar situation to the Spitfires or even the Zeros at lower tiers, where you have to hope that whoever it is doesn't just run away from you. Because if they commit to a dogfight, you have a very good chance, but the question is, can you get them to commit to a dogfight in the first place? There was a couple games in this thing where somebody, one of them was an F3H, another time it was a Sabre, just ran, and neither me nor anyone else in our team could catch them. Like, you think, for example, like F104s at higher tiers. And of course, unfortunately, you have no air-to-air missiles, just your guns. And speaking of, I actually kind of like the guns. You get access to the Hispano Mark V, which is important, I'll get onto that later on, and Hispanos are very much hit or miss. Now, fair warning, whenever you get this jet, the guns are going to be terrible. The stock belts for this thing are Spark City. Lots of hits and crits, and it will be very frustrating. Now, once you get the better belts, it will be a better experience. Now, me personally, the best experience I have with these are definitely with the stealth belts. This is pure HE and SAP, and it just has the best chance of actually doing damage whenever you get a hit. Now, if you need to have tracers, air targets, of course, is still good. It's just SAP and high explosive with a single APT shell put in. Just make sure you avoid that tracer shell, because that's the reason why the default is so bad. I do want to say, I do wish this had the Hispano Mark IIs. They're a little bit better guns, if you ask me, even though they are earlier. First of all, they have a lower fire rate, which may sound counterintuitive, but 600 rounds per minute with 4 guns is already more than enough, really, and it gives you more trigger time with the same amount of ammo. Secondly, the belts are also different. It gets 2 high explosive, 1 SAP, instead of 1 HE, 1 SAP. Just a bit more consistent is part of the reason why I like the 7.7 British Meteor so much, which, by the way, if you haven't played it, highly recommend, great plane. So basically, in a nutshell, this is just an all-around good plane, and I do think if you wanted to grind out Israel and you want to try and skip the S199 because that thing is terrible, this is a decent vehicle. I mean, it's a good plane. You can use it to grind through ranks 4 and 5, skip most of the annoying parts of the Israeli grind and get to the decent vehicles like the A4H, for example. But that is the only real positive thing I can think about this jet, is the fact that it can help you to bypass a bad part of the grind. Nothing else about this is unique or interesting at all. I mean, shoot, there is already a Meteor F8 in the Israeli tree. It's not as if they just had a different version and this is a new version they're getting. This is basically just pure copy and paste, and it's something we have seen a lot recently with Gaijin. I try to stay positive, but a lot of these event planes recently have been very underwhelming. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been some very good ones. Like, for example, I think the Iranian F-14 was a great choice. But sometimes it just feels like Gaijin doesn't want money, you know, both with their premiums and with their event planes. Like this one, for example, is just a 40 kilogram heavier version of an existing plane in a tree that already has one, with no real benefit. It's just pure copy and paste. This goes back quite some time. The last event was a little bit better, but it was still just an F5A with 2 different weapons, a new air-to-ground missile and AIM-9Ls. Before that, we admittedly did have 2 back-to-back, unique event vehicles, both the Iranian Tomcat and the IAR, but then we have a Yak-3 with 1 less gun. We have a Jaguar with Magic 2s. We have a Mirage 2000, which at the time was the same battle rating, which just got less countermeasures. I could keep going, but I think it's starting to see where I'm going with this. Event vehicles, in my opinion, should be unique in some real meaningful way. There are still so many different options for, prototype planes that they could add. There's also vehicles which are highly requested for the normal tech tree, which don't really quite work there. Say for example, the F-106, which the AIM-4 is not a great missile. Let's just be honest. And the vehicle doesn't really fit War Thunder that well. Same for stuff like the MiG-25. But they would make cool and interesting event vehicles, even if they don't really fit War Thunder. And with the Battle Pass getting more and more copy and paste as well, it's just sad. There's so many unique options they could still add, and yet we get a copy and paste Meteor with cameras in the nose. It's not as if it's worth fracas either. It gets a maximum of 8 rockets, and these are the AR ones that have a SAP warhead. With how difficult rockets are to aim now after the nerf and how unreliable they are, this really isn't worth bringing over something like, say for example the Oregon, which is a lower BR and also does get bombs. So just another case of, why exactly did they add this? The fact that I could even make this video in the first place before the plane came out is pretty sad. But basically, what I would say is, if you already have the Meteor F8, either in the Israeli tree or the British one, probably not worth grinding this out. The only reason I could somewhat see you wanting to get this is if you don't already have the Israeli tree and you haven't ground through the props. Then maybe get this, I don't know, maybe get a talisman on it whenever the talismans go on sale just to make it easy to grind through. But besides that, not worth it. 3 out of 10 would not grind, and the only reason I'm giving it a 3 out of 10 is because this is a good plane. So you should at least enjoy your time in it. In any case, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I'll catch y'all next time, and peace, y'all.